Yo, oh, we in business. Ah, shucky ducky. Hold up. What is happening? What is up? How you living? Happy Saturday. What's up, Jamie? Good to see you. How are you? Over there on the TikTok live. It is so good to see you. Oh, I'm excited. It's gonna be a good conversation. What's up, everybody? Across all the land, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and beyond. My name is Coach Sean. I'm a faith based relationship coach, and I am here to simply help you build healthier, happier, and whole relationships with yourself, with God, and with others while building security that lasts beyond marriage. Okay, I've had the privilege of helping hundreds of people. Specifically dealing with anxious attachment struggles or attachment style struggles and getting you to a place of security, getting you back to the place that ultimately God desires you to be spiritually, mentally, and emotionally when it comes to security and living that out healthily. All right. And this is just another installment of conversations that we've been building on regarding our series in the dating app dilemma. All right. So, first and foremost, shout out to everybody who's been following along with us on this journey. We've talked about a lot of stuff so far up to this point that I hope has been helpful for you as you go back and listen to the past replays or you're just now tuning into the series. It's been awesome conversation, so I definitely want to shout out everybody who's been with us along the way. And then again, this entire series is not designed to persuade anybody to use dating apps. It's not designed to persuade you to do something that you feel, one, doesn't make sense, or two, maybe just isn't helpful for you in the season that you're in. However, there's so many thoughts on dating apps in general across the land. And whether you are completely for it or completely against it, you definitely don't have an in between where there's understanding seen on both sides of the bridge, okay, and giving you fair perspective on how to navigate it healthily and healthy information that gives you an opportunity to make a decision for yourself. So, this is why we started this series 14 episodes ago, and this is why we're 14 episodes deep. And believe it or not, we're actually closer and closer to the end. I think we got, like, including this, three more episodes to go. Okay. And so we'll be finishing this series if you're watching in real time next week. All right. And so you definitely want to catch the ending of all of this because we've definitely transitioned to the application of usage of dating apps. And we're going a layer further regarding answering the thought or question how to go from a match to a first date. How to go from a match to a first date. Now, again, I'm talking not just from experience, but from statistics. Okay. Of course, for me, I'm going to probably talk a little bit more on the experiential side of this conversation because your boy has been there and done that. Okay. And it's actually a lot easier than you think. And I think, especially if those of you who are maybe, again, on both sides, whether you're a guy or you're a woman looking for someone to take that first step, they're going to share a lot of perspective that's important to pay attention to in your duration and direction for getting to a first date because it's really not as complicated as we make it out to be. And I think a lot of people are running into people who are stagnant, just maybe in different areas and seasons of their life, different expectations that you're carrying to certain people, certain matches. We've talked so much about the meaning and stories that we put to those things. And so this is just going to be a conversation where we go a little further. All right. So I'm appreciative. I'm excited. I hope you are. Shout out to everybody dropping in on the chat. Appreciate you a ton. For those of you dropping in, whether you're watching on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, do me a favor. Number one, like the live, share with others so people can come in and enjoy this. Number two, tell me a little bit more about one, your life satisfaction rate on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at today? All right. Happy Saturday. This is an opportunity to just check in on you. And we are going an hour. Okay. I do want to keep it a bean boozle with you. We got to keep it to an hour. We've been sucking at that. All right. But now we're going to be moving a little forward from that. All right. So, what is your life satisfaction rate on a scale of 1 to 10? All right. As you're coming in. Number two, what is one of your biggest goals that you want to achieve in the year of 2026 regarding your relationships? All right. We're already in July. All right. So the year has came and went. Okay. And yet there's still opportunity for you to make healthier decisions, make some, to actually create the change that you want to see in your relationships and in your life moving forward. All right. So, time is of the essence, but we're not out of time. All right. So, yeah, what's your biggest goal in your relationships in 2026? And then thirdly, what would you say is your biggest challenge in relationships? Okay. If you were to get, matter of fact, there might be a better question to ask to this. Is there any, if you were to get into the relationship that you've always wanted today, would it be sharing any trauma or unhealed wounds in you? The healthiest relationship that you've always wanted, if you had it today, would it be sharing any trauma or unhealed wounds with you? Okay. Would that person, would that relationship be sharing any trauma or unhealed wounds within you? All right. So those are the three questions. We might circle back around depending on, um, of course, the amount of attendance here. All right. If we circle back to Q&A, okay. But we're gonna get through this conversation together as we're continuing to talk about all things in relation to dating apps. Shout out to Kay in the building. She says no. I love it. All right. Share your life satisfaction rate, Kay, on a scale of 1 to 10. I appreciate the like and love, of course. And then also, what is your biggest goal in relationships that you have in 2026? What's a goal in your relationships that you're looking to achieve? Share some of that in the chat too. That can definitely continue building on some of this conversation. Okay. But as you're typing that and as other people are coming in and sharing that, welcome to another episode. And let's dive into our conversation today. Because the question is, how do we go from a match to a first date? Is it really as hard as people make it to be? What are the signs that I should look for that even allows somebody to get to a first date? Now, we've kind of been going through that throughout this series. So, again, check out the replay for those kind of conversations. But as we go deeper into this, what does that look like? And then, what should the first date look like? What should the details of the planned first date look like? And who should take the lead? All right. And this is going to be a good conversation to really unpack. So the tension that we are really needing to look at here in order to move offline wisely when you're matching with somebody on a dating app, okay, is really this, okay? And it's recognizing that a lot of people can match a message, okay? But there's also as many people, if not more, that don't know how to transition into real life clarity, okay? And I will say this, sometimes it's not so much about the fact that they can't or they don't know how. Sometimes it's the fact that they don't want to, okay? And regardless of whether they can't because they don't know how or they don't want to, right? That's less of our need to figure out which way or which direction they fall in, okay? More for us to be able to stand firm in what we know, what we're ready for, what we want, and paying attention to the behaviors that are given that either comes into agreement with that or is halting that process, right? Because I think a lot of times the frustration in these dating spaces and dating apps is, oh, they matched, they sent a message, they did all these things. And because there is no transition into real life clarity, whether that's exchanging of numbers, getting a FaceTime appointment, all the things, we find ourselves getting frustrated, okay, at the person that is choosing not to do this. All right. And what we have to recognize is because we know what we're ready for and we know what we're willing to engage in, we know what we're looking for, what we want to take next steps in. Sometimes it just comes to a place where we walk and live in continual acceptance. It's going to be a big word that we're going to use repetitively through this conversation is acceptance. Because if I can live in a place of acceptance of what is, then I'm not going to constantly cling to a version of this person I want there to be for me to feel better about the match, feel better about the opportunity, feel better about myself as a dating option, or feeling like I need to force a first date with somebody that either I really don't want to go on a first date on, right? Or maybe, just maybe, I'm not comfortable going on a first date on, okay? So it's really important. I see a question in the TikTok chat, and we're going to circle back around to that. Chaco, you were hurting by someone yesterday. If I'm the last option for everyone, can you He said if I'm the last option. Yeah, you might have to clarify some of that, Chaco, for sure. So be sure to follow up on that. And maybe I could give you some thoughts. So, again, the core tension is, again, a lot of people know how to match a message, but not necessarily intentionally take things to the next step. And this is kind of calling on us to understand more about the definition of capacity that we once gave in previous conversations, right? So capacity is typically determined, one, it's the definition, the measurement by which someone is able to withstand or withhold something. Okay, so if there's anything that you want to write down in this conversation, it is capacity's definition. Okay, capacity is the measurement to which one can withstand or withhold something. Okay, I'll share more on why. Okay, why is keeping a relationship hard? What are your thoughts on that? Share more if you like. I'm definitely intrigued. So, capacity is defined as the measurement of which one can withstand or withhold something, right? So, the analogy that we love to use around here, because we're just gym rats ourselves, all right, is when you go to the gym and you bench press, all right, if you've never done a bench press exercise in your life, for some of you, bench pressing 135 pounds, which is one singular 45-pound plate on each side of the bar, okay, for typical regular 45-pound bars, all right, that's not something that you're going to be able to lift. You're going to hold the weight, you're going to lower it, you're not going to be able to get it up, okay? And for some of you, maybe it's like, I try to lower it, but I don't even trust myself to lower it because it's that heavy. It's that uncomfortable, right? That is revealing where our capacity is and where our starting place is to be able to get stronger and build more muscle, to be able to lift this particular weight, okay? And so your capacity is oftentimes measured by one's ability to withstand or withhold something. Now, if we go a layer deeper into that, okay, same situation, all right, we recognize that my capacity is measured by my ability to withhold or withstand something. And we're using a gym analogy to show that the heavier the weight, the harder it is to lift, the harder it is to handle, the harder it is to control, the harder it is to stay in form, okay, to lift and to actually do something right in that lift. So that way we are gaining muscle properly and intentionally. We also recognize too that capacity comes with condition and choice, right? So like a nice little drop down to the definition of capacity is also understanding that it can be determined by one's ability, okay, or condition and choice. So when we talk about capacity by way of condition, this is typically us understanding that people don't have the capacity because they simply don't have the means to be able to do or perform that which we're asking them. So asking somebody to go to the gym, sticking with the gym analogy, and they have a physical ailment, it's kind of hard, right? They're not going to be able to do and participate in any kind of workout that maybe is available to them, regardless of how difficult the workout is. All right. Shout out to underscore in the TikTok chat. Yeah, welcome, man. We're talking about dating apps and knowing how to use them healthily. We're in an installment right now talking about what it looks like to go from match to first date. So stick around. It could be helpful for you. Okay. And how to move on, how to move offline wisely in these conversations. Okay, cool. So capacity and defining capacity by condition. Okay. Do you or do you not have the ability to do this? All right. Then there's capacity defined by choice. And capacity defined by choice is one's willingness to do something. Some people are willing to do things, they just don't know how. That's more of a, conditioning problem. Some people don't have capacity because they don't want to, not because they don't know how to. That is called lack of capacity by choice. It's not that you can't lead, send a message, schedule a date, plan a date. It's that you don't want to, right? It's not that you don't know how to lift. Okay, going back to the gym analogy, it's not that you don't know how to lift 135 pounds off the bar for a bench press exercise. In all honesty, you're just really tired and you don't want to, right? It's not that you can't do it. It's just that you don't want to. Maybe you don't believe that you can, even though we've seen you do it multiple times. It's just that you don't want to. And so to differentiate the difference between somebody who shows capacity by condition and somebody who shows capacity by choice, okay, is definitely paying attention to certain behaviors and consistencies that we're seeing that either gives us information that they know what to do, or they're learning what to do, or they just don't want to do. Okay. Because either way, when we're defining capacities, we all have condition capacities defined or moved with condition and choice in our life. Right. There are some people you encounter that it's not that you can't, or you don't know how to lead. You don't know how to have the conversation. You don't know how to say what you want, how you feel. You just don't want to, because you really don't like this person, or you don't see a future with this person. Right. It's not that you don't have the ability to do certain things. It's just that you don't want to. Right. And this comes with honesty. And the more that we move in honesty, the better off we are in any conversation and connection regarding dating, romantic relationships, any relationships that we carry in our life. All right. And so when we have this perspective of capacity kind of centered and grounded, okay, capacity, the measurement of which one can withstand, the measurement by which one can withstand or withhold something. And typically that measurement is determined by condition or choice. Either you don't have the ability or you just aren't willing. Okay. And with moving in relationships and moving in romantic connections, willingness and readiness, willingness and ability both matter. If you have somebody who's willing but doesn't have the ability, the question becomes now, do you have the capacity to support this person as they learn? Okay, as they learn what to do and as they learn how to do. That's a beautiful thing. But there's not much you can do when you're connected to somebody who has the ability but is unwilling. Right? There's more you can do with somebody's willingness but lack of ability than there is somebody who has the ability but lacks the willingness. Because if you have the ability but lack the willingness, then this is just a want issue. And anything you don't want, you won't actually show up for healthily. You won't show up for to deal with and manage properly. And so we all know what it's like to want someone and to know someone wants us, whether we wanted them back or not. We all know what it feels like when someone desires our attention, whether we wanted their attention or not. We all know what it looks like for somebody to move heaven and earth to get what they're after, whether we agreed with it or not. Okay. And so as we're having this conversation and we're talking about moving from matching and messaging to offline experiences, FaceTime, connection, and overall dating and going on a first date, the capacity conversation is really important. Okay. And not necessarily moving with a level of expectation where we are expecting everyone around us, okay, to move how we move, see things the way we see things, and more importantly, being able to manage those expectations so that we engage in the process healthily without hurrying, clinging, or chasing. Okay. And so what we want to cover in this conversation is a few things from a very practical sense. All right. What's up, Lisa? Good to see you, sis. Hope you're well. Thank you for the daily heart me over on TikTok. So we're going to cover this from a very applicable place. All right. This is going to be probably one of the most practical lives you've heard throughout this entire duration. Everything that we've talked about so far has had practicality, but this is probably practical through and through. Okay. And so first, let's cover when to move from app to phone call. Like, when is the right time? Okay. To move from the app where we matched and we sent some messages to a phone call. Okay. Well, there's a few ways to determine this. All right. Now that we have capacity understood, and not just for the capacity that we're trying to measure other people for having, but the capacity that we have to engage with said people in a certain way. I think there's a few ways to determine how you move from the app or when to move from the app to the phone call. Number one, all right, is what is the flow of the conversation? Ask yourself, what is the flow of the conversation? And when we're talking about the flow of the conversation, we're really asking, one, do you enjoy the conversation? Do you notice yourself coming back to the app to intentionally respond to this person's messaging? Right? Has there been enough intrigue with what's been shared and what's been said for you to say, I want to know more? I want to learn more. I want to be around this person just a little bit more. Okay. That's a good place to start. All right. Number two, when we talk about moving, when to move from an app to phone call. Okay. How long has the messaging been going on in the app? All right. Because obviously there's a various amounts of different people that get on these apps where the first message after matching, they immediately send their number and are scheduling a first date. Okay. A lot of times, especially when we're talking about the psychology of dating, y'all have to understand both men and women. Okay. Women, you kind of do this naturally, but everybody needs to understand that women filter specifically through the lens of safety. So even though you might have a prompt where somebody's like, we're going to choose the first date and the time, okay, that doesn't automatically mean that that's actually what's going to happen. She puts that there as a prompt because she's trying to discern whether or not this person has the ability to schedule a date and lead with that. She's not just going to use that once that prompt is answered and that person swipes right on her account and sends a message. That it's like, okay, bet. So we're actually going to do this. Like on next week, on that day. Is it possible? Yes, but that's not always the case. She's using that as a means to determine, does this person have the ability to schedule and plan a date? How intentional is this person? Because she still wants to take time to get to know you through some form of contact of communication. If that's messages on the app first, or if that is going to a FaceTime call, okay? Everybody has their different levels of pace and space. But you have to go at the pace that you are most comfortable with. Okay. So I don't necessarily suggest, okay, if you're someone who's like, yeah, I'm not at a place where it's like, I'm not really off rip trying to give my number, then don't. Right. Stick it to the app for a little bit. If they advance and they give their number and it's a place where you're not too comfortable just yet to exchange numbers, feel free to communicate that. Hey, I appreciate you sending your number and I definitely may use this. I'm still at a place where I'm trying to, just figure a little bit more out with how we interact in the app. Is that okay? And not even asking, is that okay? But just making that statement because it's a safety mentioning here. And if this person is cool with that, if this person is really wanting to get to know you, they probably won't have a problem with that. Because we're not attributing staying in the app or getting off the app sooner than later to mean something of extreme. We're just taking awareness to this. Okay. So when to move on from app to phone call, again, it's your decision. It's your opportunity to determine and weigh that in the balance. However, I do think it's wise when you first match with somebody and messaging begins, stay in the app a few days. A few days can mean 3. For some of you, it can mean 2 because you guys are regularly talking. Pay attention to the pace of the conversation. Okay. How often and regular are the responses happening? Because this can easily determine how quick we get to a FaceTime and a phone call. Because we're noticing we're responding to each other pretty quickly and pretty regularly. I'm coming back to this app because you sent me a message and I'm excited to continue the conversation. That's something that we should pay attention to. That gives us a green light to be like, oh yeah, I want to know more. So let's have a FaceTime. Let's have a phone call. Okay. So I think those are the two biggest things that you want to pay attention to. There's not necessarily, okay, is it in a 14 day window, right? Is it in a 30-day window? Obviously, if you're being very intentional about dating and you're wanting to find someone that you're really wanting to spend your life with and spend time with and engage with and all the things, then we're probably not going to spend so much time in the app with a specific match that we have. As we talked before, the longer it is in the app, the more opportunity it has to die within the app. So in order to keep it alive, we do want to take this out of the app, and we do want to do that sooner rather than later, but again, at your own pace. So like if we're talking in the app and it's been 14 days and no one's made a move, chances are it's like, maybe this ain't it. Okay. Or maybe if you were to be somebody's like, hey, I would love to talk offline. Here's my number. Send it. Ladies, you are not being a man and moving in your masculine if you do this, as we've said before. You're not moving in your manhood and your masculinity and all the things if in the duration of the conversation you're enjoying what you're hearing and seeing and you're like, I want to give this person my number. That's a beautiful thing. Okay. And you're going to see whether or not that is something that is really has the potential to move forward in, because they're either going to use it or they're not going to use it. And if they're going to use it, it begins a process. It's another checkpoint. That's just how we have to manage it so we don't go so far off the deep end. Because women naturally, okay, when you're talking about dating, exchanging of a number means a lot. When that number is exchanged, it typically computes in the brain like, okay, this is now on a time clock. And the time clock between the number being given, a date had, and the meaning and establishment of the relationship, okay, there's some type of countdown happening in the mind. Okay. And so obviously that can push us to move hurriedly, move anxiously, all the things, and trying to define what the relationship is in every moment. What I'm telling you is we want to use that as a checkpoint. Manage the emotions. We don't have to go with them all the way. We don't have to allow them to ride the front seat, to ride the wheel in any given capacity. Okay, but we can't acknowledge them as they're there and move forward. You're really excited to talk to this person. You're really excited to meet this person. You're really excited to explore what this relationship could be. It's a dope thing. Okay, but it doesn't have to mean that now marriage is on the horizon, right? Kids are on the horizon, right? 90 days is what he has to make me his girl. We're just taking this one step, one conversation at a time, and being as present as possible, because you do miss 100% of the relationships that you're not present for. Just like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. All right, so pay attention to the flow of the conversation. Do you enjoy the conversation? Okay, do you desire to know more about this person and continue this conversation? I think it's all of that type of flow. All right, and you move from the app to the phone call, one, when you're comfortable enough, when you feel safe enough. Okay, but obviously recognizing too, if you've been coming back to the app 3-4 days and the conversation is still going, chances are you probably do enjoy the conversation enough to want to see what else is there. So schedule a FaceTime call and send your number. That's a beautiful thing. Okay. So now, when to move from app to phone call, covering that. Now, when do we suggest a date? When do we suggest a date? Okay. Now, I will say this from my experience and how I coach clients through these things. I definitely suggest that I definitely think that it's maybe on the safer end to suggest a date on the first FaceTime call, on the first phone call. Okay. While you have them there, while you guys are talking, interacting, seeing each other. Okay. This doesn't mean it has to lead the conversation. We're not necessarily leading the conversation with a suggested first date. But I think typically if you're enjoying the conversation, you guys are getting to know each other organically, the conversation is going to get to a place where we're talking about what we want to do together as a first hangout opportunity. Okay, now that's typically maybe more so reserved towards the end of the call. So we now have what I like to call a call to action. This is the sales marketing version of me coming out now, but this is really, really good and something that you can apply in your dating, not because you're treating them as some prize or object to market, but because we're being intentional with our time and effort. Okay. Suggest a date as a means of closing the call, closing the sale, closing the conversation. Okay. The conversation is starting to hit a descent. All right. You guys have either been talking for an hour, you've been talking for a couple hours. All right. Now it's like, okay, cool. So I love this conversation. I really appreciate your time, fellas. You have a great opportunity to lead here. Like, I have a ball of, especially if it's somebody that I genuinely want to continue conversation with. Okay. And I want to see what this can look like. I definitely have no problem suggesting a date at the end of the call. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna figure it out. There's some places that we can go and I'm gonna send you the details. Right. So, but you typically want to do that on the call. I've had a couple times where I've done it off the call. Okay. but we want to be able to close that FaceTime call with a direction. That FaceTime call direction needs to be one of few things. Okay. I prefer FaceTime. All right. I think you should prefer FaceTime too. Okay. So you want to do a FaceTime call, or maybe if you don't have an iPhone to do FaceTime, try Google Meet, Zoom, something. Okay. That gives you an opportunity to see this person as you're talking to them. That is such a beautiful way to be able to understand more of who you're looking at, who you're dealing with. Okay. Do you like what you see? And obviously, do you enjoy the conversation that's being had? When all of that is finalized, okay, you like what you see, you like the conversation that's being had, and we're coming to the close. The end of the FaceTime call and the end of the conversation should go one of few directions. Okay. One is to plan a legitimate date. So, hey, I really enjoy this time. What does Friday, 7 p.m. look like for you? I'm open. What are you thinking? I don't have anything. I got work, but that evening is closed off. What you got in mind? Okay, bet. No, I was thinking we would go here, here, here. Here's the time and place. If you driving, I'll pick you up. Okay. Maybe for the first date, it's more so of a meeting. I probably wouldn't suggest picking her up on the first date. Obviously, that sounds like a dope romantic gesture, but again, I don't know you yet. So in order to really move and maximize the safetiness of this, you probably do want to create a place where you are aware of where she is. If she's a couple hours away or whatever the case is, you're aware of where she is, okay, locally. If you're dating her, okay, if you're dating her locally, if you're dating her out of state, all the things, okay, first date, you probably want to go to where she's at. All right. There's various different ways to move about this, but you definitely want to make it most comfortable for her so she doesn't have to go so far, drive so far. All right. Yeah, yeah, you can't know where I live for months, and that's beautiful, right? So again, there's definitely places to be where we don't have to involve like picking her up as a first date. Okay, I don't necessarily suggest that. All right. There's a different level of safety and consistency that should be present. But for a first date, especially somebody you just met off a dating app, this is in the context of meeting them off a dating app. All right. You probably want to choose a place that allows y'all to meet halfway. All right. Or maybe, if anything, you going a little bit longer of a distance, fellas, than she is coming to you. Now, there are, again, nuances to this. All right. If she enjoys driving and doesn't have a problem coming further to where your area is, right, based off of the thing that you chose or a restaurant that's better than what was suggested, you guys are coming together and making the plan. Cool. Like, that's not a problem. Again, I've met people that's like, hey, I love driving. It is not a problem, okay, to drive a certain distance. Okay. That doesn't make you less of a leader, doesn't make you less of a man, doesn't make you less of a anything. Okay. She enjoys driving. She was willing to come out there, and you guys can easily come to a place where if you enjoy the first date, okay, we're just talking about the first date, but assume you enjoy the first date and you want more. Okay. If she came out closer to where you were for the first date, then you need to go closer to where she is for the second, or vice versa. Okay. But you're going to suggest this date at the end of the call. So the end of the FaceTime needs to be, hey, I really enjoy this call, really enjoy this conversation. Listen, what are you doing Friday? And boom, boom, boom. Let's go to this place, meet here. We'll connect, meet here at 7:30. Okay. And then have the whole itinerary and plan there. And as things come up, as plans change, as other things you want to do, okay, maybe come up in the later conversations, make sure you communicate that and add that to the itinerary of the date. I do believe that the first date shouldn't be something that we are like planning extravagantly. This is supposed to be what I like to call an introductory kind of date. All right. The first date can be an introductory date. I kind of have three stages. So there's an introduction, there's an active, and then there's a connection date. All right. For the fellas, y'all want to pay attention to this. I think this is gold. All right. So for the introduction date, this can be if we're meeting at a coffee shop. This can be, you can actually use the FaceTime as an introductory, but it's a part of the introductory. Okay. And then the first actual date that you guys go on, still an introductory stage. This introductory date shouldn't last longer than 90 minutes. Okay. I'm not trying to cram all of this in one time, in one date, in one message, in one connection. I think a 90 minutes is a comfortable range. Okay. Obviously, if you're enjoying yourselves, you're enjoying the time, it might go longer, but you really want to set a time like, hey, 90 minutes is a really good opportunity. We get in, we get out, but we enjoy ourselves. Okay. And we're leaving ourselves a little bit room to say we want more. Right. Now, with that introduction, again, coffee shop, a walk, going out to a park, some kind of public scenery. Okay. I love first dates being more like I can integrate a couple of them. Okay. So like the first date can be, if it's not a coffee shop, I love going to arcades. Your boy is a competitor at heart. So first dates are, I love going to arcade settings. Okay. And there's a lot that I'm investigating even in this arcade setting. Okay. But it's a beautiful thing. We're having fun. We're connecting with each other, laughing, enjoying the time. Okay. And it's for a brief moment. Okay. Some of the best dates that I've been on is when the time came and went. We got there, we started having a ball. I couldn't even believe 90 minutes had passed and we're already headed home. And it made me be like, man, I want to do that again. I want more of that. Okay. That's kind of how you're looking to feel, or at least you're looking to measure that level of feeling and connecting with this person and having a date with them. Okay. So there's the introductory, there's the active date. Okay. So the active date is more so like, hey, we need to do something active together. Again, this is just for me. I'm not saying you have to follow these rules. And if you don't, you're not going to get a right, relationship. No, everybody's different. Again, I'm more of an active guy. Okay. So if this active date is this, can count as let's going for a walk, going to the park, going to play a sport, going to the gym, I don't know, just doing something active together. Maybe it's another arcade date. Okay. Maybe it's more of a, maybe we go, if wherever it is, man, maybe it's an amusement park if you got the funds for it, whatever it is. Okay. We're just get creative, but it's supposed to be something that just allows you both to get an opportunity to see each other in active settings. Okay. Moving your body and having fun. And then the third date is reserved for more. If you get to the third stage and the third level of the date, it's more of a dinner and yap type of deal. Okay. Maybe that third date, maybe it's not necessarily dinner or a formal dinner. Okay. Although I do think that really is something that's really, really helpful. Okay. If you have a formal dinner, that gives you guys an opportunity to see how you guys interact over a meal. Go to your favorite place, having conversation. How well and fluid is the conversation? Okay. How many things can you guys get into regarding conversing with one another? It's a beautiful thing. Okay. But that's kind of more of where I like. And if it's not dinner, maybe it's a picnic. Maybe it's an ice cream date. You don't necessarily got to go to an entire, dinner per se. Maybe it's just, hey, we're going to go to a place locally, get a sweet treat, walk around, have a conversation. Maybe it's something as small as, we're meeting at a Sonic. I don't know. Okay. Something along those lines that just allows you guys to have a scene in a setting where you guys are maybe drinking, chowing down or something. It's a wine tasting, whatever. But it's a quality environment where you guys are able to spend time with each other and talk to each other. Phones are put away. All right. This is an opportunity for us to connect. And then after that third date, we kind of have a little bit more of a context to see, okay, well, where is this going? Hey, I want to go exclusive, or I want more of this. I still want to learn more about you. I still am in a phase where we're still trying to connect and get together. So let's go for another date, right? But be in the present and enjoy that. But there's stages to it, okay? But you want to suggest the first date without going too much on a tangent. I got 25 minutes. So to suggest the first date, it has to come at the end of the call. So the end of the FaceTime call needs to be a planned date, perhaps another planned talk, call, or conversation. Okay, don't just be vague. Plan it. Okay, if you're really intentional, like if you're really intentional about wanting to continue this, okay, and you like what you see, you like what you heard, and you're like, hey, I definitely desire to want to continue to talk to you, connect with you. Okay, it needs to end. The first call needs to end on a planned date, another planned call. Okay, and don't make it in 2 weeks 2 weeks in advance. Try to make it as soon as possible. All right. Obviously, I know schedules are crazy, but try to make it as soon as possible. Okay. Within the first 7 days, 7 days from the time of the call, find a meeting point where it's as soon as possible for the both of you guys when you're available. All right. If it's not an in-person date that's scheduled, it's another call that's scheduled. And if neither of those are scheduled, okay, then the third needs to be probably like, hey, I've probably seen all I need to see here, and I really appreciate your time. I'm going to keep on looking. Because one thing we have to recognize is that giving your number is supposed to be a checkpoint. Having a FaceTime call is supposed to be a checkpoint. So if we treat it as a checkpoint, then we shouldn't necessarily get our feelings too caught up in the event that we look at this, we had the call, we had the conversation, and we were just listening, and we were like, you know what? I just don't think there's enough of what I'm looking for here to feel connected to want to keep having conversation, meeting, or going in person. Honesty is the greatest medicine to all of dating. So please remain honest with where you are, what you're looking for, and what you're doing. Okay, but fellas, this is a great opportunity for you to lead that. Great opportunity. There's no better time for you to put into practice your leadership ability than planning a date, planning the first date on the call while you have her, planning the next call while on the call while you have her. Okay, getting it on the calendar. All right, being intentional with that and leading in that. Hey, I'm available Friday for another call. Are you? Let's talk again. I really want to pick up where we left off here. And we'll call then. Okay. Or, hey, I really, really enjoyed this. Hey, I'm ready for this first date. Let's go. I got availability as soon as tomorrow. Great. I'm available then too. Bet. Let's do it. We'll meet at 5. We'll connect, all the things. Okay. It's a great opportunity to lead. And again, for the ladies, in the event that you like what you see and you really want it, I'm not saying you need to lead and plan the date, but it's not the worst thing. Throwing ideas out there. I would love to go here. I would love to do this. I would love to do that. What you got going down for the weekend? Again, like just sometimes moving with some of those hints. Now, again, hints don't necessarily work too well for guys. Sometimes you got to be, got to be real specific. Got to be real specific. But this is a great opportunity to do that. Okay, so to suggest a date when you are on FaceTime, when you're on the call, and at the end of the call. That would be my preference. Okay, because at least we have it on the schedule, we have it on the calendar, we know where we're going next. All right, so now let's talk about what a good first date should accomplish. And we'll be brief with these next ones in 22 minutes. We're going to get this wrapped up. All right, a good first date should accomplish a couple things. All right. A good first date should accomplish a form of comfortability. How comfortable, and maybe to a degree, how safe did you feel with this person when you first encountered them and you first saw them and you went on a first in-person date with them? Okay. A good first date should accomplish the level of excitement and fun you had. Like we said, introduction. There's a variety of different things you can do for an introduction date that doesn't involve y'all being intimate, sexually, going so deep, nothing. Matter of fact, that shouldn't even be on the table. Okay? But a good first date should accomplish some form of enjoyment, some form of fun, some form of engagement. And I love to measure first dates, not necessarily so much by the outcome. Hey, is there a second date? Are we doing it again? Are we again, and that can be a form of success. I'm not saying it's not, but I like to measure my first dates more so by how I approach the first date. How did I handle the first date? Okay. Did I have fun? Did I enjoy myself? Okay. Did I lead and how did I lead? How did I engage? How was I able to manage my thoughts and emotions through the duration of the date? Okay. If it was somebody I really wanted and I'm excited and we got this going, right? Even to the smallest things like, man, how did I handle that sidewalk rule if we went out and went places, right? Like I'm just measuring my accomplishments on this first date more so with how I handled myself. And then did I enjoy myself? Not so much about the outcome and is there another date? Because if we only measure a good first date by, hey, we have a second date, then we're missing so many micro, not just lessons, but enjoying moments of the date that actually you are like, hey, I liked that experience. So for my next first date, I don't mind doing something like this again. Like this actually could be one of the hallmark experiences for dating me is coming to this location or coming to this place or doing this particular activity or doing and having this level of an introductory. I love coffee shops. I didn't know how much I loved coffee shops till I went on this coffee shop date. And so I think I'm going to keep that in my back pocket. And no, we didn't go further. It ended here, but I definitely don't mind coming back to this coffee shop or going to another coffee shop for my future first dates. That's a beautiful thing. We're looking for the win in everything. It doesn't all have to be a waste because it didn't advance. Okay, but a good first date should accomplish a form of comfortability, safety, and enjoyment. How comfortable were you? How safe did you feel? And how much fun did you have? We do not have to take it so seriously that this person has to walk out of here feeling like you are their husband and she is your wife. It doesn't have to move that way. What's up, Vin D? Good to see you. It does not have to move in a level where we're sitting here thinking to ourselves like it only is an accomplished first date if I'm able to tell her that God told me she's my wife. Like, please get that out your vocabulary first and foremost. Please. I don't care how much you flow in the prophetic. I love it for you. Stop scaring people off with this stuff. If you're not careful, you'll literally fall into lanes of spiritual manipulation and not even know it. So, like, let it go. Be in the present. Have fun. And if it's really something that God is putting together, let it be. It'll happen. Just let it be. Wisdom is later proven by its results. Okay? So, like, let's not force that. But a good first date should accomplish a level of comfortability, excitement, and safety. Those are probably the big three pillars. Did you enjoy yourself? Did you enjoy the time and company? Okay. Did you feel safe? Did you feel comfortable? And obviously, you do want to ask yourself, would you do this again with this person? Right? Because that's going to ultimately be able to determine, hey, does the buck's in here or should we keep going and we'll revisit this and we'll come back for another date? All of it's intentional. All of it is based on awareness. All right. And we're using the first date as a measurement to reflect on how you are approaching it. Don't focus so much on what he's doing, putting so much meaning to what he's doing, putting so much meaning to what she's doing. How are you approaching it? Move with a level of self-reflection while being present. We're not asking you to be such a self-critiquing individual, right? So like you start critiquing every move you make, everything you say. So now you overthink it. Wow, I wonder if I held the door too long. I wonder if did I walk on the wrong side of the sidewalk? Okay, like, oh no. We don't want to live in that place of overthinking. Oh, he paid the bill. Does that mean relax? Like he invited you to the date. He just wanted to cover the date. Let him and enjoy that without attaching the meaning of it, meaning he's going to take you now on, I don't know, some type of trip, adventure, it's marriage, it's all these things, right? We're paying attention to the stories. Now, again, you might go on a date for your first time or for your first time in a while. Maybe this is your first time ever hearing conversation like this, and so obviously it's a lot challenging. I'm not asking you to go into these dates feeling perfect, and in the event that you have those thoughts, you're doing it wrong. It's us putting ourselves in environments to be aware when those thoughts show up. And when they do, we just let them pass. We let them go. We stay in the present. It doesn't mean that you messed up or that you failed or that you didn't do enough or that it's a sign that God doesn't want you to be with them. Like, let's not attach that meaning to it. We're just aware of those thoughts as they show up, the feelings as they show up, and making it an emphasis to be as present as possible. Y'all, the measurement of safe, healthy, amazing relationships isn't by how much you do and how much you say and all the right things. It's measured by your ability to be present. How present are you in this relationship and in this moment? To the point where you are present enough to be aware of what you're hearing in your environment. You're present enough to pay attention to where and what they're saying in the conversation. You're present enough to the smell in the environment, to everything you see. Okay. And in the moments where your mind starts drifting off to other places, slowly bring it back to the present. One of the greatest things to do to bring yourself back to the present that you want to get a hang of now, okay? If you're one of those people that are like, yo, I would love to do that. My mind just gets to racing. Anxiety gets crazy. I'm really excited and nervous at the same time. Let's build a habit of getting back into the present. Jay Shetty has this method called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. I've shared it a lot with clients. I didn't create it, but it's really dope. Okay, so name 5 things you see. Okay, you want to take a note on this, please. For those of you, especially those of you who move really, really anxiously in dates, first dates, out of excitement, nervousness, whatever it could be, you really want to take a note here because it's something that's going to help you come back to the present moment as you're engaging with somebody that you're on a first date with that you really like, you're really feeling, you think is cute, and you might want more. Okay, name 5 things you see. Okay, 5 things you see, 4 things you feel. Okay, whether that's you feel the wind blowing, you feel your jacket, you feel your shirt, you feel the seat you're sitting in, you feel the table your hands are on. Okay, 4 things you feel. 3 things that you hear. What do you hear around you? Maybe you hear birds chirping, wind blowing. Maybe you hear glasses hitting tables. You hear abundance of people talking because you're in a restaurant. Okay, name 2 things you smell. What do you smell in the environment? And then name 1 thing that you taste. Now, all of a sudden, we're back into the present moment, right? We're not drifting off into other places, drifting off. Our mind is going everywhere. We're coming back to the present, okay? And so a good first date should accomplish, like I said earlier, a sense of fun, excitement, safety, comfortability. And more importantly, how did you approach the relation? How did you approach the environment, okay? How healthily were you able to manage your thoughts, manage your emotions? Okay. We're not talking about getting scripts right and being perfect and moving in perfectionism. You might come off of that first date and be like, man, I should have said this. Man, I should have did that. Okay. And it's not something that we have to overthink so much to the point where we believe in the event of doing something opposite, then that means we would have gotten a second date, depending on what it was. You know, the first dates are first impressions. We do not have to lie about that. But there's a way to leave a first impression that is coming from an authentic place with you just simply being honest with where you are. A good first date setting, dress down. A good first date setting, dress down. Fellas, if you're good with all the suits and you're good with all the fanciness and all the things, hey, that's cool. But I think first date could be reserved for more of like sweatpants, t-shirt, nice kicks, whatever. Maybe a hoodie if it's cold. Okay? Get into an environment and go to an environment where it's like it's not so much about the aesthetics and the watch and the suit and all the clean things you got on, and it's more about the authenticity that you present yourself in. You don't need to be going to a coffee shop in a full-blown suit. Ladies, all right, sweatpants, hair tied, chilling with no makeup on, that's when you're the prettiest. I hope you don't take it wrong. Shout out Drake. But it's like, listen, the aesthetics of a thing can sometimes be something that we get caught up in most. And so there's no reason why you should feel the need and pressure to be all caked up on the first date. Dress down. That's why I say the first date is an introduction section. Dress down. Be comfortable. Because if we're being honest, some of y'all, and this is kind of what plays a role into somebody not looking exactly how they looked on the profile, because you had all this makeup on. And then, you know, you first introduce yourself with all this makeup on. And then 3 months into the relationship, when you finally start feeling more comfortable, you start taking it off. And he like, ooh, and he's scared in the mug because you don't look nothing like you did when he first met you. To prevent that, dress down. Dress down. I'm not telling you to be like rough. I'm not telling anybody to come in rough. I'm not telling anybody, hey, fellas, get a haircut. That's beautiful. Take care of yourself. Get a haircut, trim your nails, you know, put some smell good on. Get yourself right. All right. Ladies, cool. You know, you might have some, I don't know, concealer. I don't know what all the details are. All right. But you don't need to go in a full-blown, full-fledged beat face on the first date. Be comfortable and presentable. Be comfortable and presentable. Having your hair tied, slicked back. Come on now. Believe it or not, most guys find that attractive. Guys who really like you, that's attractive. Because a lot of the times, all the makeup and all the stuff is more so for what we've talked about earlier in this series. A lot of that, it can be for you, but a lot of times it's also because you're comparing yourself to other people around there. So that way you don't look like the weak link. You know, you can't be taken advantage of. right? You're trying to, it's from a comparison standpoint with your peers and with other women. Fellas do it too. Okay. So those are a few thoughts there. How long to text before meeting? All right. Again, applicably, if we're moving at a healthy pace, we don't want to get numbers and then become pen pals and not FaceTime and not get on a call. All right. Let's not drag it out. Okay. I would say a healthy time to text before a phone call or a FaceTime, from the time you get the number and send a message. I would say a good time. I probably wouldn't wait longer than 3, 4 days. I probably wouldn't wait longer than 3, 4 days. Okay. Let's not turn this into a pen pal. And if, in fact, maybe if you're moving real directionally, okay, as you're continuing to get to know them, you continue the conversation that you picked up on or that you left off on from the app. You bring it on to offline and you continue that conversation there. But in the duration of that conversation, hey, when can we get on FaceTime? I would love to get on FaceTime. And y'all are just working that out there. Hey, I actually got time today. Hey, I got time tomorrow. Hey, I got time this. Okay, cool. And some people are different. Some people are like, yeah, I'm not really too big on like texting in between, you know, whether that is the scheduled FaceTime that we have, or I don't want to text too much in between the FaceTime that ended and the first date that we scheduled at the end of the FaceTime. I'm not big on that. I actually like to, have some space in between there. It kind of builds a level of excitement to see you. And obviously you have some check-in messages. Hey, just got the tickets for this. Here's that. Hey, just confirmed our reservations for our first date. Here, 7:30. Wear this. This is dope. This is going to be a good time. I'm excited for it. Right? You can send check-in messages like that. But again, it's all based off of communication. Even though you might move like that, that doesn't mean the person that you're dating and courting moves like that. So it's a time to have a conversation about that. Like, hey, are you a type to text in between dates, or are you someone who's more comfortable with, you know, maybe not texting as much leading up to the first date after our FaceTime call? And then whatever the answer is, we adjust, right? But yeah, I would say, I don't think we should text so long before we actually have the FaceTime. So we want to schedule the FaceTime within at least the first 3 to 5 day window of us actually transitioning to offline communications. Okay. If we're being intentional. And then when we have the transition from the FaceTime to the first date, right? The first call to the first date, let's talk a little bit more about what we may want and what it looks like in that. Okay. Your boy, personally, let me just give you some insight. Like I'm not someone who's texting all throughout the day. Got a lot of things that I'm, dealing with throughout the day that I'm handling and showing up for. Okay. Clients, calls, streams, all the things. Like I'm not necessarily too present on my phone to where I'm like sending messages back and forth. Okay. I'll probably check messages at the end of the day. That's kind of been the angle so far. All right. And I can definitely communicate that, but I don't hold an expectation to where it's like I expect her to be present and sending messages all the time throughout the whole day, nor do I expect myself to do that, but I will communicate. And I think that's good. Okay. But, everybody's different. And so we want to be mindful of that and raise those kind of questions. Thank you for the heart, me, Ashley. What's up? We want to be mindful of that. Okay. As we're navigating that, and everything is communicated just so you know what it is. So we're not expecting too much, and it continues to give off a healthy sign that you know how to communicate. It's a win-win. All right. So yeah, I think a good window to text before meeting, again, 3 to 5 days before the first FaceTime call. And then I think it's all dependent on where you are and who you're dealing with. And raise the question, hey, are you more comfortable with us texting in between our FaceTime and the date? Or are you someone who's like, you would prefer check-in messages leading up to the first date to build some excitement? Just ask the question. The best way to know is to talk to them and ask. Okay. How to avoid false intimacy is really, really big. Okay. I don't know if I have too much time to highlight that deeply. Just know that you can avoid false intimacy. All right. I think through the boisterous levels of conversations you could have early on. Okay. We don't necessarily need to be on FaceTime and on calls for 4 to 6 hours a time every time we're on the phone when we first meet. I think there should be pockets and tangible windows so that way we can manage this the healthiest way. Okay. First FaceTime call or voice call, again, 90 minutes is a good, 60-minute call is really good. You can get a lot covered in 60 minutes. Maybe 80 to 90 minutes is cool too. But yeah, if you're, a total of hour and 20, hour, 30 minutes, not bad. I think a form of false intimacy can show up when you are, when you first meet them. Now all of a sudden, y'all on FaceTime the first time, and y'all falling asleep on the phone. And women know how much meaning y'all can attach to that. Fellas can do it too. I know I did once upon a time. But it's like, man, no, I don't want you, avoid false intimacy by just being present in the moment with what is, and remaining true to the outline and boundaries that you have set that is going to help navigate the early stages of dating, so that way y'all stay in a lane of getting to know each other instead of just falling for each other every day, because now all of a sudden we're getting the blow up good morning texts. Okay, we're being flirtatious through and through from start to finish. Okay. Hold the tension of allowing some space and some conversations to breathe. All right. False intimacy is often built when there is a lot of intensity that is mistaken for intimacy. Remember, intimacy is built for longevity. Fake intimacy is where intensity is involved. So we're trying to do everything fast. We're trying to fit every conversation in the moment. We don't allow empty spaces, quiet moments. And we conflate that to mean that they don't like us, or this isn't from God, or this isn't it. He's not the one. She's not the one. And those are the stories we tell ourselves that we should be aware of, and realize that it doesn't have to mean that, but it also doesn't have to mean that we need to turn it on to the very opposite direction, where now we're just flooding each other's phones with all kinds of messages and all kinds of things, right? Intimacy is built for longevity. This is a long game, not a short one. So let's play like it. Let's not play hard to get. Okay. If you're legitimately not busy, you're on your phone and you see a message pop up, respond. I like you. Yes, I'm going to respond. If you're busy, right, then that's a different thing. Come back to the end of the day. But we don't have to, let's just avoid all the false pretenses that we try to create around these things. Okay. And that's by sticking to what we know and how we want to navigate the early stages of the relationship and dating. Okay. Staying safe. All right. Staying safe is all about not just location and this person's willingness to honor you with decisions, with communication, with how they talk to you, with what they talk to you about. Okay. Staying safe is all about posture, awareness. Okay. First date, we should be out in a public setting. Okay. We should not be in anything private and intimate where it's just you two. We should be in a public setting. Lights, it's bright. Other people can see you and see where you are. All right. You're among other people. Great stuff. All right. And of course, we've had our conversations on safety as well. So go back and listen to that conversation. We kind of cover a little bit more in depth there. All right. I think it's called Boundaries and Safety, something along those lines. That's the title of the episode. So be sure to check that out. All right. And then you definitely can tell there's enough interest to continue. Okay. One of the greatest ways to tell that there's enough interest to continue is, one, did you enjoy the time that you shared with this person? Okay. Now, can you enjoy the time you shared and still not want something more? Yes. That's not the only thing that we measure it by. We also measure the level of interest. Okay. What is not just what is a feeling. Okay. We're not just looking for a feeling, although the feeling can be there. All right. You got butterflies. Maybe it's not necessarily butterflies, but it's just a level of excitement. Right. There was a level of excitement that was experienced in this date that let me say, I want to do this again. The way that we engaged, the way that we talked, the way that we had banter, the way that we just kind of built on conversations back and forth, seeing you in person, obviously elevated a lot of this. Okay. But there's typically enough interest to continue. All right. Based off of the level of excitement that you shared in the date with each other. Typically, there's a level of enjoyment. All right. There's a level of safety involved. That is the hour timer, by the way. And if you're staying curious and you liked a lot about what you heard from this person, especially from the introduction date. Again, the introduction date from this context is designed to get to know each other just a little bit deeper. So as I'm asking questions, not just what's your favorite color, favorite food, but I'm just asking questions. I'm liking what I'm hearing and I'm answering back. You're liking what you're hearing and you like what you see, right? We're not necessarily always chasing a feeling, but we know what it's like to want somebody and want more of them. Just like you know what it's like for someone to like you and want more of you. It doesn't necessarily mean they're falling in the extreme of being clingy to you and always touchy-feely on you. If a lady, if a girl is really interested in you, she wants to keep talking to you and giving you her time. If a guy really is interested in you, okay, he's definitely moving more with a service mentality. Okay, he's setting up the next date. He's intentional with the conversation and communication. Okay. Prioritizing your safety, making sure you get back home on time, making sure you got back home safely, all the things. Now, that can just be also a genuine, like, I think we just need more people who are just willing to be genuine and helpful and loving, regardless of outcomes. So, like, just because he says, text me when you get back home, doesn't always mean that he wants to move forward on things. Listen, I know I've had my fair share of going on dates and I enjoyed the time. Send me a message when you get back home, but I wasn't interested in moving forward to another date. And I let that be known. I'm just a loving, healthy individual that cares about your life. So we measure the enough interest by, okay, is there a level of excitement? Do I want to see this person again? Here's a better question to maybe ask. What did I experience here that would keep me from wanting to see them again? Sometimes you may not know exactly what it is that makes you want to see them again, but sometimes you might know what you experienced in that moment that makes you say, I don't know. And that makes me cause a pause. So ask that question. Be curious about it. Meditate on it. Sit on it. Okay. Maybe at the end of the first date, there isn't a clear like, oh, yeah, let's do this again next time. I'm available this day. Let's do it. Okay. But you guys stay in contact and connect. Hey, I'm going to follow up with you on what my schedule is. Once I get back to the crib, you let me know where yours is and we'll do it again. And follow through on that. Follow through is probably one of the toughest things in dating today. A lot of people say a lot of good things, but don't follow through. The follow through is what's going to separate you from, the chronicle singleness you're in to finding the right person simply because you followed through. You said you were going to call and you called. You said you were going to be there and you were there. Okay. The follow through means a lot. All right. And there's some questions that we'll ask here in the application section to answer more about how to tell if there's enough interest. Okay, but I know for me, there's a lot of things that go into factor. One, did I enjoy my time? Did I enjoy the company? Is there a part of me that wants to see this more and see this continue to play out? Sometimes there isn't. I've seen all I needed to see and I've seen what I've seen from you and I enjoyed the time and I'm good. There's not a part of me that wants to do this again. Another great indication sometimes is when you're more excited about the place you're going to than the company you're having at the place you're going to. That's a really, really good spot. So like if you're someone who's like, yeah, we're going out and we're going to this place and you're more excited about the venue or you could be equally excited. Sometimes you can go into the date, be more excited and then get on the date and realize, ooh, I'm really enjoying this more because I'm with you. Stay open to that. Okay. Don't close your heart off as you go into the date. Be open to it. You never know what you'll get, what you'll experience. People can be various different things in person compared to who they were on the phone because you have a limited access there. So keep your heart open. But, I think if you're someone who's like, yeah, I'm excited to go to this location, but I'm not as excited to connect with this person because I just didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I enjoyed. I really wasn't a fan of the conversation. Then, I think that's a good indication like, okay, maybe this isn't something that we need to continue to play around. We've seen enough and be okay with moving on. Hey, I enjoyed my time, had fun. I don't think I see this moving forward though. And I wish you the best of luck in your future as you're moving forward. Keep moving. Like I've messed up before where I got caught up in conversation. This is something that I had to be intentional about and I'm still being aware of for sure. But like I've had moments where in the midst of conversation, I would say something like, oh yeah, we can do this and we'll certainly do this. And I'll start like, cause my mind, I can be a planner. when I have it and I'm willing and I'm ready, like, yeah, I'm a planner at heart. I can go. And I've shown I can do that. And that's amazing. But sometimes I get so caught up in maybe the conversation that we're having, that I could start saying those things without paying attention to, like, okay, but maybe I haven't really crossed all my T's, dotted all my I's before I really got here. I just was talking because it was just a flow of conversation. So you want to be mindful of that. Okay, because I've made the mistake of still, feeling like I had to do that because I want to be a man of my word. I said I was going to take you out. I said I was going to do that. I said we were going to do that. So I'm going to do it. But it became more of like, I'm only here because I said I was going to do it, not because I really want to be here. And if that's where you're at on the date too, I think that's a great indication to end it after that date. And also too, part of healing and moving in a healthy place and security is recognizing you can change your mind. Like, hey, I know I said that I wanted that we were going to do this, but you know what? After further thinking, I'm changing my mind. I'm okay with being where I'm at, and I'm wishing you the best as you're moving forward. I mean, and that could make them feel some type of way, but you were honest, you were intentional. We're not here to control how they perceive you. Because I think you were just as much of man of your word in the event of coming back and saying, you know what? I'm not as interested as I once was. I'm not as interested as I thought I was. And I'm just going to not even waste your time or our dollars. Okay. And maybe for some of you, it's like, well, I can still get a good experience. It's my first day in a while. I mean, okay. And maybe you'll still keep your heart open because maybe it's not like that. But keep your heart open as you're approaching it, right? Like, don't close it off so fast. Is really the goal. Okay. And one good date ultimately is not a relationship because, again, this is still an introductory point. Okay, at the end of the day, this is one date. This is the first date. This doesn't have to be this is setting the tone for what other dates can look like. Most people are showing up in their best behavior on the first date, whether that behavior is acceptable or not. Typically, it's the best behavior. Okay. Sometimes people are trying to put on a show. Most times people are putting on a show. They're creating and showing you a version of themselves that you're going to have to continue to be engaged with to be able to see, okay, what more of them is real compared to what they showed you on the first date. Okay. The laughter, the nervousness, the reservedness. We've all seen those memes where, when you're first dating the girl the first month, she's so proper, she doesn't eat much. And then all of a sudden, 6 months into the relationship where she's comfortable, now she's just eating she's just enjoying herself, right? There's just so many other things that she's excited about and engaging with, right? And that just goes to show, like, there's legitimate stats, science, and all those things in regards to first date impressions. And so first date impressions do matter. That's why I say, fellas, get cleaned up, look presentable and comfortable. Ladies, look presentable and comfortable. It doesn't mean you have to go to the extreme, but be presentable and comfortable. At the same time, recognize that one good date is not a relationship. You can absolutely have a good date with somebody and still say, I don't want to see what this looks like moving forward for whatever reservations you have. That is okay. Right? One good date is not a relationship. It's a moment, it's an opportunity, it's an invitation, and it's a checkpoint. So let's keep moving with these checkpoints and not cling to so many stories as if because the first date went so well, that this is bound to be your spouse. There's still some other things that we want to put ourselves in position to understand, to uncover, okay? To put ourselves in positions to remain curious about. And that's okay. Take your time, be in the present, and have fun. You do not need to walk away from the first date knowing whether or not she's your wife, knowing or not whether he's your husband. Let these things play out and develop. Be in the present and don't over spiritualize everything to the point where now we're all spooked out. Okay? So the app can create the introduction. Real life reveals the pattern. Okay? That's the focus there. The app can create the introduction through the messaging, the matching, the liking, all the things, but the real life reveals the pattern. For some people, they're a little bit, they're better than advertised. For some people, they're not quite nearly as advertised. And so that's why we're going into this first date and we're being aware. What we see, does it match what we matched with? Does it match what we looked at? Does it match what we first said we liked and what we saw? The conversations, are they just as dope, if not better, in person? Is the energy a little bit different? Sometimes you'll go on a date and you're like, man, there's not really a romantic connection here, but you would make amazing as a friend though. And like, I can be cool with that. But not everybody makes a friend, because a lot of y'all offer friendship because you just are afraid of how they'll handle the true rejection. So we don't want to start just offering friendship to people because we are just uncomfortable with the truth of not wanting them and how they'll handle it. Okay. But there are some people, hey, it may not have worked out romantically, but man, she's amazing. Man, he's cool though. Like, I respect him. I respect her. I honor her. I've come across quite a few people like that. Man, we don't necessarily gel romantically. There wasn't really a romantic type of feel here. However, man, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the substance, and I appreciate your time. And like, in another world, you would make a great friend, or in this world, you'd make a great friend. But I definitely am not somebody who's just offering friendship left and right, because I got enough friends. And a lot of y'all probably should be just as honest. Y'all not really looking for friendship. You were hoping there was something romantic there. It wasn't. So just allow yourself to keep moving forward. Don't cling to that, and don't create another excuse towards that. Okay. So I want to give you the first date evaluations. This is also some questions to ask. Okay. How to tell if there's enough interest to continue. It's not all based off of the butterfly feelings. Okay. All right. It's not all based off of the energy that you feel, how exciting you were. Okay. Yes, there needs to be some level of anticipation for the next follow-up date for you to be like, yeah, I'm excited, and I'm excited to get to know this person more. I really thought we had a great conversation. We talked about a plethora of things. Man, we got to talking about our journeys with our faith, the Bible, Jesus. Oh my goodness. Like, I was kind of blown away. Maybe you don't have a blown away feel, but you have a feel where you're like, I've seen enough and I do want to continue this further. I have this curious feeling that I want to keep knowing. I may not necessarily fully know if this is something that's going to turn into a relationship, but there's enough that happened in the first date that makes me say I want a second one, and we'll just go from date to date. That's being in the present. That's not playing around. That's not playing games. We're being in the present, and we're maximizing that. Have fun with that. Okay. You're not wasting your time if you're like, I like the date one. Let's do date two. I liked date two. Even better. Let's do date three. And sometimes by the time you get to date 3, 4, you like, wait a minute, hold on. That's just because we were allowing things to breathe. Sometimes we don't give ourselves opportunities to just allow connections to breathe, because we just come in with so many expectations up front. I've been guilty of this. Okay. But if it's somebody that you like enough to continue investigating beyond the first date, and there's a level of anticipation there, that's something we'll pay attention to. Here's some other things you want to pay attention to in a question form. 1, did I feel physically safe? Did I feel safe with this person physically? We're not asking you to, oh my goodness, like, you hear all this social media banter and conversations like, oh, like I was just able to relax my shoulders. I didn't have to pay for anything. I was able to turn my brain off. Okay. Well, 1, this is a first date. Now, I'm not saying somebody can't make you feel physically safe that way, but I highly doubt on a first date that you're turning your brain off completely, because there's still parts of this person that you don't know. That's not to put fear in you. That's just to be honest. But there is an aspect to you though that does feel a little bit relaxed with this person. Did you feel relaxed with them? Okay, that's a great sign. Number 2, did you feel emotionally respected? Did you feel emotionally respected? Were you cared for through the duration of the date? Okay. If something crazy happened where you might have fallen or something like that, like, were you laughed at? Were you helped up? Did this person care enough to make sure you were okay? Right? Emotionally respected. So this is more so geared towards maybe the conversations you guys are having. Okay. If you mentioned that you were uncomfortable with something, what was the response? When you said no to something, what was the response? Okay. Was conversation mutual? It's another great question to ask. Was conversation mutual? For the introduction, you might be at a coffee shop, FaceTime, something like that. Maybe it's an active date. So maybe there wasn't a whole lot of conversation, but maybe you're measuring that by competitiveness, engagement, fun. Did you both mention that you had fun together? Or was it just you? You know? Nothing but honesty there. Was there a mutual fun and engagement had in that date? Okay, fourth question, were they curious? Were there questions asked in direction to you and your life and your story and what makes you you, or was the whole conversation just about them? I mean, they came in from rip. I mean, talking about their work, their money, their job. They didn't ask not nail one question about you. That's probably a sign I don't want to go back out with this person, because all they did was talk about them, and I sat there and listened for 2.5 hours. It almost sounded like a therapy session. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go back on that date either. I don't think you should. Okay. Did their profile match their presence? Right? That's a good question. Okay. When you have enough context with the checkpoints to kind of answer this question, because you met them on the dating app, you saw their profile, you saw how they presented themselves and some of the ways they described themselves. Then you went from matching and having messages on the dating app to then having a FaceTime. Well, one, is it the same person? Is there any part of them that makes you feel like I didn't know that? I I I could not tell that this was what you looked like. I just didn't know because of the angles of the pictures you took, all the things. Okay. Like, did everything come into alignment and agreement with what you saw on the profile, what you were listening to in the conversation, and what you saw on FaceTime in the call? Cool. If all that aligns, when you're in real life, do you feel like it was similar? Did everything that she described herself to be kind of feel close to? Okay. That's really good questions. Did they honor boundaries? Were there any boundaries set? Okay. And then obviously, did they honor them? Now, obviously, there should be some boundaries that should be, in my opinion, I don't think you have to say it. Okay. Like, we're not doing a nightcap on the first date. You're not coming over my crib. I'm not going over yours. I'm not touchy and feely all over you, and you're not touchy and feely all over me. Like, a hug and all those things make sense. Okay. Maybe as we're going through a crowd, I take you by your hand because we're going through a crowd. I care about your safety. Okay. Like, all those things are cool, but like, we're not doing nothing provocative, nothing sexual, nothing all that. Like, come on. Right. So those boundaries should be honored. And I think that should go without saying. But then again, we're in 2026 and everybody is dysfunctional and dating from attachment wounds and all the kind of things. So you never know what to expect. But did they honor boundaries? Were there any boundaries that you set prior to the date in conversation? Did they honor those? Okay. Did they respect that, or were they pushy, forceful? Okay. When you mentioned something that maybe made you feel insecure, did they turn that into a joke, or did they honor that and respect that? I've seen a lot of people who are sharing like dating story times and they're like, yo, like, I had a moment where I was sharing an insecurity, and maybe they didn't turn it into a joke then, but they definitely joked about it later and like made a joke about every little thing in that direction. To women, that doesn't really scream safety. And that doesn't really scream something funny either. Like, that challenges her ability to even feel safe enough to connect with you. And some women are so crafty about it that they'll lie about a certain insecurity just to see how you handle it. How do you handle what she's telling you? And I love it because this kind of goes into our conversation that we had yesterday or last replay. Like, when you're talking about sharing too much, giving too much, and being mindful of that. I think that was the last conversation we had. Okay. We talked about burnout. That one. Oh, yeah. We talked part 12 is what we talked about. Boundaries, safety, and pacing. I'm just looking back at my notes. So like that conversation, when you give a little, you learn a lot about people by how they handle what you've given them. Right. So vulnerability is something to be treasured. And so when you give them a little, you're able to step back and observe how do they handle the little that they gave you. Does this end up on the internet? Do they start joking and, all the kind of stuff? They start clowning you over these things. Like, to women, this is more than just like I'm just kidding around. I got love for you. No, I don't. Like, I don't feel safe with you when you do that. This is like, and this is too soon, too early. You don't have that level of foundation of a relationship to be able to take it that direction and that distance. Y'all, I have to be so honest with myself. One of the things that I had to be honest about myself was I love to roast. I'm an avid roaster. I think it's an unspoken love language. Okay. And I know not everybody is like that. I'm also competitive. Like, I'm a very competitive person at heart. And so I had to be honest with myself, because there were sometimes meeting people, engaging with people, not just romantic interests, but even friends, where I was like, man, I'm a little too competitive. Not to the point where I'm like saying things that are disrespectful or taking advantage of something you shared with me in private to then blast you off. Never to that degree. But definitely, can talk my crap a little too much. It can be a little overwhelming. Okay. Maybe it turns from being fun to being annoying. So I had to be honest about that and peel back, because sometimes what one may consider to be roasting, people with different personalities and different places and experiences, that's not everybody's feel. That's not everybody's cup of tea. So you got to know when to turn it on and turn it off, you know, and especially when you're feeling it out. Like, I've been on dates, like I said, I'm a competitive person. I'm looking for somebody who can play along with that competitiveness. You may not be good at everything. I know I'm not good at everything, but like, play around with that competitiveness. I've loved engaging with people who are just as competitive as me. You got a competitive bone in your body and you'll talk your trash like no other. I run my mouth too. Right. So that's something that I just personally look for. So if we go on a date and I notice, like, I'm trying to create a little something, banter, playful banter, but it's just not received, it's not engaged with, you know, that to me is letting me know, like, okay, this just really maybe isn't my cup of tea. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like something is inherently wrong with her. It's just like, no, it's just not my cup of tea. And I'm okay with that because I know what I want. And when you live in a place of security, you know what you want. And you're okay with moving on from somebody who doesn't necessarily match that. Okay. So like, yeah, there's got to be a level of safety there. And fellas, you just gotta be mindful. Be mindful. Okay. Honor the boundaries, honor her emotionally. There's a lot of things that are possibly going through her mind, depending on the day she's had, let alone where she is. So just be mindful of that. Set the tone, but also allow her to adjust the temperature. If you set the tone, you came out in the date, you were on fire, you were, being competitive, all the things, and then, you're kind of noticing the temperature isn't really being met with that tone. Feel free to adjust it. Don't keep at it, but adjust it. You know, and maybe she has that level of temperature where she matches that tone. That's a beautiful thing too, right? But we want to honor her boundaries. We want to honor those emotionally. Okay, take care of her as if not as if, because she is God's daughter. Please, ladies, take care of him because he is God's son. Please, it ain't always about you. All right, it goes both ways. I'm not for men or women. I'm for truth. And then finally, do I want to learn more, or am I trying to force interest? That's the biggest question to know if you're wanting enough interest to continue. Do I want to learn more, or am I trying to force interest? All right. That's a really good point. Because sometimes we don't necessarily want to learn more. We've seen all we need to see. And you kind of know you're forcing it when you're creating different things that you're trying to find in this person or that you hope is there. Like, you went on the first date, you got the experience, and you're like, well, maybe in like 2-3 months, I'll like them. So I don't mind going on the first few dates. Like, we're kind of forcing it there, right? A lot of times, especially the healthier you are, the quicker you're able to determine if somebody you're engaging with is somebody you want to keep engaging with. Let it be a measurement of healthiness to you. I can determine whether or not I want to continue to connect with somebody. It doesn't even have to get to a first date. We could have a FaceTime, and I can just tell by the level of conversation, not just the level of conversation, but the direction, energy shared in the conversation, whether or not I want to keep moving forward with it. because I have done so much intentional healing work on myself and being so progressive in that. It don't take long. And from a healed man, it does not take long for him to figure out what he may want to do. It does not. Now, I'm not saying that he has to make you his girl in a month and he has to make you his wife in a year. What I am saying, though, is that especially in beginning stages, people know what they want. And if they don't know exactly what they want, people do know what they don't want. So let's not feel like let's not feel pressured or obligated to force interest. If it's not there, it's not there, and that is okay. But let's not continue to take people out on dates and all these other kind of things. You 6, 7 dates in and you still don't know. Sign is you probably don't like them, and you're either not being honest about that, or you're trying to hide it in the hopes that it doesn't hurt the person that you're connecting with. And listen, sis, listen, bro, they'll be okay. Say no, say you're not interested, and trust that she can handle it. He can handle it. They will be okay. Stop catering to the emotional responsibility of other people. That's people pleasing. And anytime you keep showing up in spaces you don't want to be in, but you feel obligated to, or anytime you keep showing up in relationships and with people that you just genuinely don't like, don't have any interest in, not your cup of tea. It's not that there's something that has to be wrong with them inherently. It's just like, it's just not for me, but you keep going anyway. Okay. Oh, because you call that niceness, kindness, reflecting Jesus's heart. No, that's people pleasing. And that's going against your values. All right. And that's you forcing things. So we know what it's like to genuinely want to learn more about somebody. There's a level of excitement there, anticipation there. Okay. There's a level of curiosity that makes us go, yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind another opportunity to sit with them, talk with them, connect with them, because they left something in the midst of that connection that made you feel not just seen and all the things, but made you desiring more. Okay. Real thing. We all know what it's like to sit on Thanksgiving, to sit at the table for Thanksgiving. We got our plates loaded up in that first bite. Wherever it is you go to take your first bite on your plate, it leads to the entirety of the plate cleaned up because the taste was good, enjoyable. And so we were like, yeah, I'm going to get this plate ate up. And we also know what it's like to sit at a table and have some food in front of us that we were unsure about, and we gave a try and we did not like the taste. And so guess what we did with the rest of the plate? For some of y'all, we took it over to that trash can and we folded the plate so that they couldn't see their food on top of it in the trash because we didn't like it, because they got enough nerve to put raisins in everything. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to just, because what I tasted there wasn't enough for me to keep going. And those of you who still sat at that table and ate that food anyway, you people pleasing. And you living at the mercies of trying to get the approval of everybody else around you instead of just being honest. You ain't got to flat out be disrespectful and say that they food is trash and they should get out the kitchen. But maybe it's just like, nah, I'm okay. I don't, that's not my, that's not my cup of tea. That's not my flavor. That's not my taste. And let them deal with whatever is on the other end of that. But part of moving securely and dating securely is, yes, knowing what you want and healing intentionally long enough to not settle for that and not pretend to like somebody because either you told yourself you should because of all the things they did for you, or telling yourself you should when in reality you just don't. I'll end it here. I had an awesome conversation. This was one of the times where I actually experienced a form of rejection. We were having a conversation at the table, and I remember listening, and she was mentioning, just a lot of the things that she was experiencing and seeing throughout the duration of our time, knowing each other and connecting with one another. Obviously, there was nothing given that gave her different things. But one of the things that I just love so much, I'm proud of myself of, without obviously going too much into the conversation, is I was saying in that moment, hey, like, let's not get so caught up on the shoulds. Let's not get so caught up on the shoulds. Because maybe it's just not something that's coming from a place for you that makes you desire it. It comes back to what we started this whole conversation on: willingness and readiness. when there is a sense of desire to want to build and a desirable connection with somebody that you're with, man, there's what stops you. When there's willingness and readiness, there's nothing that can get in the way. Romantic love, building a healthy love with somebody, and not just romantic, we're talking about friendship and all those things too in that regard, but obviously this is in a dating app sense. When there's willingness and readiness, y'all, man, sky is the limit. There's a lot you can do. Okay. But when you are not willing, all right, or the other person is not willing, whether that's because they don't want to, it isn't because they don't have the ability, it's because they don't want to, or maybe they just don't have the ability to do those things. Listen, y'all, we just got to live in acceptance. It is what it is. And we have to learn to respect the decisions of other people on where they stand with us, even if we would rather it in a different direction. I know you like them, but they don't like you. I know that you wanted to do things with them, but they don't want to do things with you. I know. You saw it go into marriage. You saw it go all the things. You prayed about it. God confirmed it in my dream. All the things, and they still said no. Let it go. Live in acceptance. Grieve it. Grieve the potential of it. Grieve what you wanted out of it. Grieve all those things. We need to in order to leave it properly. But let's not convince ourselves, man, that there's more to it than it is. It isn't. And you got a nice sample size to determine that. And that is okay. Rejection is either by preference or preparation. They either prefer something different than you or they're not prepared for you. And to be honest, as much as you might want to say everybody fits in that category of preparation, sometimes it's about preference. They just don't want it to be. They don't want to give it to you. That doesn't mean you need to start all of a sudden questioning who you are and your design in order to show up for this person. I don't want to be in a place I don't want to share a space with somebody for the rest of my life who don't like me and don't want me. That's frustrating. And half of the marriages that are coming together are doing just that. You got married because you were told you were supposed to get married by this time, not because you were ready or willing, especially to the person you're married to. Now here we are. You don't like them. You don't know them. You don't want to connect with them. You don't want to touch them. You don't want to be around them. Too many people are getting together with others who they just don't like. And I am too healed for that. And there is nobody that you should like so much that you should be willing to abandon who you are in order to fit the satire they have made in their mind of the man or woman they want, that causes you to step out of alignment of your values in order to please them, to feel accepted. That's an internal wound that we have to deal with, not an external situation, dating pool problem that we love to blame. All right? I'm telling you that from experience. I had to do the work. And you got to show up in those ways. Okay? Was this helpful? I hope it was. For those of you listening in, put a 1 in the chat if this was helpful for you. Quick stream. Went a little over time, but we'll be just okay. All right? And if you guys want more on all things related to becoming secure, putting these things into action, dating healthily, and needing to actually become secure so that way you can apply these things in the healthiest of ways, I need you to send me a message on my socials with the keyword secure to get started on the process. Okay, you get some automated messages that you'll answer that will give you exactly what you need, including an opportunity to join potentially my secure program trial week. Okay, that's live and active right now, designed to help you tangibly and practically overcome your anxious and avoidant attachment and become secure at nervous system modalities. Okay, so be sure to do that. Go to the top of my page or YouTube. Link is in the description. All right, to be able to get your free relational diagnostic. All right. Be sure to do that. That'll expose all the truth you need to know about where you are in your relationships and next steps, so that way you can stop repeating these relational patterns in your life, so you can no longer claim what you don't know and you don't know how to do and you're aware but still stuck. This is going to give you an opportunity to get ahead of that and to create change. Okay, so be sure to take that relational diagnostic at the top of my page. Uh, is there anything else? Um, Books are open. So in the description for YouTube, be sure to look in the description and schedule your session through one of the links there. Socials, Instagram, TikTok. Be able to DM me the word sessions, and I'll be able to get you my link to book your call so we can sit down and unpack these things in 60 seconds and get you progress to where you need to be and who you're wanting to become. Uh, if you can't do any of that, be sure to follow for more, subscribe for more as we continue building healthier, happier, and whole relationships while building security that lasts beyond marriage. And as we come to the end of our dating app dilemma conversations. All right, we got 2 more episodes left, and I'm excited to close those out with you next week. And until then, as always, be easy and be breezy. Peace.